Hello there, welcome along to Busy Bee Budgets, where we're on a journey to financial independence. And I think I'm going to do a separate video about, I guess, some of my goals. It's not really a debt confession, but just more like why I'm doing budgeting and like what I want it to kind of be working towards. So if you'd like to see that, please leave that behind in the comments, and I will do my best. But this is talking about June budget, and firstly, excuse the kind of slightly scrappy way I've done it this month. I just thought it was more important to get it down onto paper than to worry about making it look pretty. So apologies about that. What I'm going to do is just zoom you in so you can hopefully see it a bit better. So June is going to be a 4-week month for me. I get paid on the 8th of the month, so that's why I don't kind of really start till mid-month. This month is starting on the 10th, and that's going to give me 4 weeks through till the 8th of July. And I've set myself some goals this month. So June, I'd like to have 10 no spend days. I've got a really spenny month coming up. I'm going to talk about that with some of the allocations later on. So I need to just make sure that when I don't need to spend or when I'm not committed to, that I'm making the most of those no spend days. So in May, I kind of fell off and didn't really record them and stuff. So for June, I'm definitely going to record them, and I'm aiming for 10 spend days because I do need to really kind of I think I'm just getting into a bit tap happy again. I think although I use cash budgeting, I tend to just pay with my card and then take it back out of the cash and kind of circulate it around that way. But you know, it's just becoming so easy just to tap your card, and because it's social and it's sunny and people invite me to stuff, it's just I need to just really be conscious that I'm hitting my goals. My budget is really generous, but I am really lucky to have a high income, and I think it's just like everyone, isn't it? It's balancing all the things you want to do with what your financial goals and just trying to make it kind of work the best you can. So I guess that's kind of where I am with it, really. I want to have 10 spend days. I want to fully stuff 2 sinking funds. So I'm going to talk a little bit about sinking funds in a minute. But I do the snowball method, and this month I'd like to fully fund 2 of those, as well as stuff my financial goals, which is the one I stuff every month. And I also want to sell some stuff. I've been saying this the last couple of months, and I haven't got around to it because life's kind of got in the way. So I do really want to make a concerted effort to sell some things, and a lot of it I've got is vintage dresses and stuff, and I'm hoping now that people are starting to go to weddings and go to events and stuff, that people might want to start buying that stuff again. During the pandemic, no one was going anywhere, so the kind of stuff I was selling wasn't really going anything, but I'm really hoping if I put a concerted effort in and sell some of that stuff, and also some of the home stuff I've got lying around the house as well, so hopefully we will make a dent in that. But I'm not going to include the income from that in the budget, and what we'll do, any money from that I'll put aside and put into the what will be July budget, which is crazy to think that it's almost July, and this year is just going so quickly, isn't it? So there we go. Those are my goals for June. We'll see how we do. Salary wise, my main salary is going to be $5,000 this month, and then side hustle income of $375. For those of you who've been following my channel for a little while, you'll probably know I bought a business a couple of months ago, and I'm hoping that that'll start to pay some income. At the moment, everything I'm making I'm putting back into the business to buy new stock and things, but I'm hoping that will work its way through, and that it will start to contribute some income, or at least pay back the investment that I paid to buy the business. So we'll kind of deal with that separately, I think, but at the moment I've not budgeted for that, but I'm hoping that come the end of the summer it should start to be a positive return on investment. My fixed bills look fairly similar to every month, so £1,500 comes from my household bills. So that covers my mortgage, gas and electric at the moment, though that has gone up from 175 to 325, and obviously it looks like there's further rises coming, so I just need to keep an eye on that. I'm trying to build up a bit of a buffer at the moment in that bank account, in my bills bank account, to that will hopefully start to cover that if we need to do that, but obviously that's a bill that may well come up. So we've got mortgage, we've got gas and electric, we've got council tax, we've got our phones, we've got our internet, dog insurance, life insurance. Basically any adulting cost comes into that bills account, and is currently at £1,500 a month. Gym, which is 90. Then I've got various subscriptions, everything from dishwasher tablets through to magazines, and they all kind of come out at the same time, so I just group them all together and say it's £50 a month. Some of those could go if I needed them to, but most of them I kind of use and I'm okay with, so that's that. Car tax at 12, and then a loan at 750. So this loan will be gone by the end of the year, which will be nice. And then obviously that will give me an extra big chunk back to that. So moving on to variable costs. So all of that sort of fixed cost, if you like, comes to 2,400. So income's at 5,375. So it leaves me with around just under £3,000 for the rest of everything else. So this month the variable does look a bit different. So food, I've allocated 100 a week. Food prices are obviously continuing to go up. My husband's now back from working away, and like, to be honest, he just eats a lot, like all the time. That man is eating. But also it covers like the dog food, toiletries, cleaning products, everything that I buy at the supermarket, hair dye, all of those bits and pieces. So 100 a week, which should be fine. Fuel I've up to 90 because that is how much it's costing me at the moment to do a tank of fuel. At the moment, with the level of travel I'm doing and stuff, one tank of fuel lasts me a month. But like pre-pandemic, I was doing like a tank of fuel a week. So obviously, if we start traveling more, that's obviously going to be like an expense I need to keep an eye on. But at the moment, kind of a tank is kind of keeping me going. Self-care I've reduced down to 100. So at the moment, I'm getting my hair cut twice a year. Whereas pre-pandemic I was getting it cut and coloured every month. So self-care I'm adjusted down to that. I'm not having my skin treatments at the moment, so like that feels a reasonable level. So basically I usually have like 2 massages a month, which is 80 quid, and then a bit of extra just for anything else that kind of flows in. As I say, toiletries and stuff I tend to buy with the food shop. I don't buy anything fancy. It's all kind of high street brands and stuff, so I'm not someone who uses like expensive products. So that all should be good. Anything that's left over I think I'm going to put into a bit of a sinking fund, which is my treats fund, because I do get Botox a couple of times a year, and so that will just kind of be put towards that. Social is 150 this month. I have got quite a few social stuff still planned. It's all lovely stuff and all stuff I really want to do, but it all just seems to come at once, doesn't it? So social's getting 150. Miscellaneous is getting 40. So that's just for anything, usually like household stuff, anything I haven't really budgeted for, like a mop or something, or a B&M shop. So that just tends to cover everything else. Spends, which does cover things like if I want a coffee or anything. It's quite high this month at 150. That's because I'm going away with a girlfriend this month, and I just want to make sure that if we want to go for tea or coffee or dinner or whatever, that's kind of covered. So whether or not that comes out of social or spends is kind of a bit irrelevant. I have this year I am doing a no clothing buy. So I haven't bought anything. I started it at the end of January, and I haven't bought anything for the last 4 months. And it's amazing still how many clothes I still haven't worn, and also just how you get used to not shopping for clothes. So I'm actually quite enjoying it. And there are certain brands when they release new stuff. So I'm a big fan of like Lucy and Yak dungarees and stuff. And like every time they have a new pattern, I'm like, oh my God, I love them. But the point is actually I don't really need it. And I think that's the difference with the budgeting approach, is like working out your needs versus your wants. So I'm really enjoying the clothing buy. I'm definitely going to stick it out for the rest of the year. I might do it for a full year and say nothing until January 23. But I'm also starting to think what other areas of my life perhaps could I apply a no-buy approach to. But there's nothing else that's kind of as obvious as like superfluous than clothes at the moment. So I need to have a little think. If you've got any suggestions about things you do, I'd love to hear those in the comments below, because it's actually quite freeing doing the no spend thing. Maybe I might do it for home accessories, because I am a bit of a sucker for getting new home furnishings and stuff like that, candles and just like little objects and stuff. So maybe I might do that. That might be a good one. So I'll have a think about that. Anyway, I forgot where we were. Right, so that was spends. So again, a bit high this month, but I'm comfortable with that. Giving 40, so £10 a week. And that's just my what I give to different causes or whatever. And then I've got this one-off cost of events, and that's because I've got a couple of really big things. So I mentioned the weekend away with my girlfriend. So that's going to cover obviously my train and our Airbnb, and a bit of kind of a dinner or something. So I haven't been away with this friend probably in about 20 years. So should be a really lovely weekend. But I've got that, and I've also got a gig in London, which again is train fares and like a whole day out. So it's one off this month of 500. But they're just two big things that happen to come together this month, and like that's fine. But I'm not having a summer holiday this year, and I appreciate this is really a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but I always think in the context of like what I earn and stuff, like it's okay to have a splurge, it's okay to do things. The idea of this is it's about being mindful for me, and not just saying yes to everything, because that was one of my bad habits pre-pandemic. Is because you could say yes to everything, you did, and then you ended up doing stuff you either weren't that bothered about or wasn't that much fun, but just because you kind of felt you had to. And then I think obviously the pandemic stopped all of that, but also, I don't know about you, but it's kind of reshaped some of my friendships and some of the people that we saw or didn't see socially. So that's a real ramble, sorry, but basically for me this whole process is about being intentional and about spending money in the areas that I really want to. And although this is a big expense, these are two things that I really want to do and I know will bring me joy, and so that's okay. Of course I could not do them and save an extra £500, but in the context of everything else in my budget, like this is okay this month. So as I say, kind of one-off, expensive this month, but like but that's life, and that's fine, and that's okay. So all of my variable costs this month come to 1,470. So added together with my fixed costs, which is 2,400, leaves me around £1,500 to put into my sinking funds. So I put £1,000 a month into my financial goals, and at the start of this process I didn't really identify like what those were. So I think I'm more leaning towards perhaps investing in some property. I'd really like to get to in a position in a couple of years. So given my high level of income and given how we budget and where that might go, and given that the loan will be going soon and whatever, I'd really like to pay my mortgage off for the next couple of years. So I think we've got about 70k left on our mortgage, which is obviously quite a high figure, but given our income and given other bits and pieces and given the way that we're currently living our lives, if next year, for instance, I put a real focus on paying over our mortgage, or at least getting that money ready so that when my mortgage deal expires, that I can do that. So I've got about 3 years left on our mortgage deal at a very low interest rate. Obviously interest rates are going up at the moment, but what I would like to do is by the time that interest deal ends, which as I say is about 3 years away, that I've got the remaining balance I can just pay off the mortgage. So obviously I'm going to be making payments in between now and then, that will come off the total figure. So I think if I had something around 50 to 60k saved, then that will pay off the mortgage when the time comes. But I'm also conscious of obviously interest rates in the bank are really crap, so whether or not in the meantime it's better to put some money towards an investment, that's all the stuff I need to work out off the side. And of course none of this is financial advice, this is just me kind of thinking about it. But yeah, so I think maybe whether or not I'd like buy a couple of investment properties next year, and then so just small like perhaps flats, or and certainly not in the area where I live, so we're cheaper in the UK. But I think property investment in the long term is going to be part of my financial future. So thinking about that. So that money that I put aside, the £1,000, is for those financial goals. Obviously I invested in a business earlier this year, and some of that will get to a position where that business starts paying me back. And obviously what I can then do is use that money, which is where my financial goals money's gone so far. I can use that money to start building up reserves in other areas. So so basically, long story short, in about 3 years, what I'd really like is I've got some income from rental properties, and I've also been able to pay off my mortgage. And then obviously then my budget will look significantly different. And then what I earn can be adjusted, i.e. if I want to work less or I want to switch and do something else, then I can do that, and I've got the financial freedom to do that. I'm not one of those people who wants to just retire, because I think I'm like too young, and also don't think it's particularly good for you. But what I would really like is more flexibility, either to work contract or work less hours, or just to pick and choose a little bit more. I went part-time a couple of months ago, and it's made a massive difference to my life in terms of the quality of my life and yeah, just balance. And I can see how working less and less would increase that as well. So obviously there's always a tension between you need money to live, but also how much of my life I'm prepared to give up to that. Like working the type of job I do with a high salary often comes with there's a level of work I've had to put in over the last 20 years, and the hours that I've had to do, and all of those other things, and some of the sacrifices I've made. And this is the point in my life where I get to kind of pay some of that back, if that makes sense. So I appreciate this isn't everyone's journey and this isn't everyone's story, but this is kind of where we are at our lives at the moment, and what I want to do is make the most of it. What I don't want to do, which is what I see a lot of my colleagues doing and people who I work with and stuff, is get trapped up, like sucked up. You earn a lot of money, but actually you spend a lot of money. You have very expensive holidays, or you drive really expensive cars, or you don't live in a big house and stuff. And I think what this process has made me do is kind of step away from some of that. But ultimate first world problems, I totally get that, and this is absolutely from my point of privilege. So please take this all with a pinch of salt. It is just like, this is the life that I'm living at the moment, and this is my experience. So that was a massive ramble, wasn't there? Right, anyway, financial goals, sinking funds, that's what we're doing. And then the 2 sinking funds I'm going to stuff in June are health and gifts, and they will be fully funded if I stuff these amounts. So what I have previously done is gone through, I don't know if I've got this written down anymore actually, is rework my, here we go, it's a bit rough, but I apologise for the writing. What I've done is kind of set out what I would like to have in each sinking fund. So the idea being that I could, if these are the areas that I had, the levels of savings I had, then I would be much more comfortable about, just like when those unexpected things happen. So for me, I've set the levels at gifts of 250, health 250, vets 500, Christmas 1,000, emergency fund, which I've already fully funded, car to get 1,500, home to get 1,500, and what I'd like to be able to do is put sort of £1,000 towards my business or goals every month. So I'm doing the financial goals bit at the moment, and the emergency fund is fully funded. So what I'd like to do in June, these kind of dates are a bit out, but June I'd like to do gifts and health. And then what I'm basically going to do is work up in priority order and work up in size order. So the month after that, I would fully fund vets, and hopefully if there's any extra, put it towards Christmas. Then when Christmas is fully funded, I move up to car, and so on and so forth. So actually I might move some of these around because my car insurance is due at the end of August. So I might try and fund car before Christmas or whatever. But the idea being that basically by the end of the year, these would all be fully funded. Obviously, if I had to dip into them, I could just replenish it. But again, when I'm doing the budget for next year, which sounds like a long way away, but we all know how quickly this year has gone, that would kind of, they would be in a really good position. And then again, the sinking fund stuff would look a bit different. So it's all part of the journey about intentionality for me, and making sure that we are focused on hitting some of these financial goals and hitting this financial independence target. So like I say, ideally 3 years, that would be great, if we were in a position where that was all sorted. So hope that made some sense. I know I went off track from June's budget a bit, but I just thought it was probably helpful just to give you a bit of context. And then we'll be moving on to July, and then the second half of the year, and then kind of the rundown to the closeout. So that is all good. So in terms of May's budget, I had a few like different things that happened or didn't happen. So I didn't make as much side hustle income as I wanted to, so that's a priority for June. And also I didn't stuff the sinking funds I wanted to because I spent on the garden. But again, I'm like really comfortable with that decision, and the garden looks lovely now. It was great to entertain in it at the weekend and stuff. So I think that was like definitely money well spent. And it's not been at the detriment of anything else. It's just everything else has been pushed back slightly. So there you go. So thank you for listening to my rambles on that. Love to hear any questions you've got, or comments, or thoughts you can think if you've done a no spend year. So I don't know if a whole no spend year is like too ambitious for next year, but yeah, I'd be really interested to see what you think. If you've done it, I'd love to hear how you got on, because maybe it would accelerate, the amount of money I can put towards the financial goals, and maybe get there a bit quicker. So yeah, it'd just be really interesting to see what you think. So I hope you have a good weekend, or a good day whenever you're watching this, and check back into my next video, which will be my first cash stuff for June, and I will also probably do sinking funds at the same time, so it should be quite a good cash stuff. So lovely to see you. Thanks for coming along, and take care, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, bye.